Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sales Chatter. It's Friday Fun Day, but we got something in store for you this morning. So this is Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast, where we aim to help 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co-host, the logistics monk, Ryan Mohammed, and with me is my man, my co-host, the bodacious cowboy, president and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, Jeff Dickinson. How you doing this morning, brother?
Awesome, man. What a week we had so far, right? I mean, from Monday to now, great conversations. I am so stoked to talk to our guest. So let's get into this right now. Let's do it.
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we go. And like you said, Jeff, we've had a great week. I've personally enjoyed watching all the episodes as we've kind of gone forward and have like a focus on HR and recruiting this week. Our season 2 of Empowering Women into Logistics, as I believe it's been a great hit. And for everybody who's new watching and tuning in today, if it's your first time watching your show, welcome. We're really pleased and really happy to have you here. If you're a seasoned viewer, you know what the deal is. So, Jeff, get into who our amazing guest is today, please.
Yes, she's well known in the industry. You've probably heard her name. Please welcome Charlie Saffro from CS Recruiting.
Hey guys.
Good morning, Charlie. How's it going?
Thanks for having me. Excited for this conversation.
As well as us. I mean, we've had such a great week, Charlie, talking about empowering women into logistics. And, tell people about yourself, the ones who don't know who Charlie Saffro is.
Sure. So I'm Charlie Saffro, and I am the president and founder of a third-party recruiting firm called CS Recruiting. We specialize exclusively in this industry. So we work on positions within logistics, transportation, supply chain. We work on roles at the executive level, management, everything in between, and we work all over the country. So we've got about 40 people on our team, mostly in Chicago, and we're working with 3PLs, asset providers, shippers, tech companies. Really, if the position has any supply chain influence, it's usually a role that we know very well, and we've got the network to support the search. So always looking to hear from hiring companies or job seekers and see how we can help.
Awesome. And I know that you're extremely busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend a half an hour or so with us this morning. Charlie, this past week, we've been talking about the empowerment of women into logistics. And since the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we've moved quite a bit. Have we gotten to where we need to be? I would say we're moving in the right direction, but where we are today, where we need to be, and how we're going to get there is a whole new thing that needs to be discussed, because I did some analysis. 1 in 4 women in the C-level positions, that's 25%. And then 1 out of 20 women in color, or 5%, are in those C-levels. Shameful.
Yeah. Really. Is that just specific in our industry or across all industries?
Across all industries. Women in those C-level positions. And I really, that kind of hit me, because I've been an advocate for women, not just in logistics, but in all businesses. And what I've seen over the years, it's really not where it needs to be. I mean, there's a lot of chatter, a lot of talk about the subject, but still we're way below where we need to be, not just in the positions, but when you take into accountability of salary and making it equal for both men and women. It's still not there. I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on that, because I know you deal with a lot of people in the industry, and I'm very interested in your take.
Yeah, I mean, I have been recruiting in this industry about 15 years, but have owned and operated CS Recruiting for the last 12. And I always think back to the first maybe 2-3 years that I was doing this independently, attending industry conferences, the TIA, CSCMP, And there's always, a women's lunch or something to gather women at these shows. In the first couple years, I may be exaggerating, but I'm going to say there were like somewhere less than 20 people. And you get to know those women and you connect, and then you continue to go to these shows year over year, and you start to see that female audience grow. So just thinking last year when we kind of all returned from the pandemic, I was at the TIA women's lunch and there was a roundtable discussion. And I'm going to say there were 250 in the room, which is a huge improvement. So we're moving in the right direction. But what's interesting is the stats you shared, Jeff, on leadership and women in leadership are almost identical to the stats around women in our industry. So right now, there's about 25% of our entire industry's talent pool is women. And I agree, it's not enough. We've come a long way. It's definitely climbed over the years, but I know we can do more and I know we can do better. And a big part of that is just creating interest and awareness for all the exciting opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. When you talk to a lot of directors of HRs in these companies, you try to figure out what their needs are, what they're looking for. What do you think that they're lacking that prevents women to get to those higher levels or even get them into a company? Because in most companies, when you take that 1 in 4 statistic, it's very concerning to me. I've hired a ton of women in my past, and they were great. They're highly intelligent, probably more intelligent than us guys. The empathy.
As Jeff has decided not to pay his internet bill today, but we'll bring him back on and let him finish his thought.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, and I just it's concerning to me. So, what are your thoughts on that? What can be done on the corporate side to help women get into those roles?
Yeah, I think the first and probably most important, and also probably the easiest initiative, is just, again, creating awareness, giving women an opportunity to share their stories. And not enough companies do this. So, whether it's an employee case study or being able to use this as part of your recruiting and retention strategy to show that there is a woman in our organization and she started in this position. And over the years, as she's gained success, she has climbed and is now our president, and really being able to expose the audience to not only what that woman has done for the company, but who is she behind her title? What kind of person is she? Because as humans, we look for connection, we look for similarities. And I can't tell you how many times I, in the past couple of years, have spoken up and talked about my journey and my story. And women reach out to me and they'll say, I needed to just see and hear another woman that I could resonate with to be able to believe that this was something I could pursue. So it is easy. And, it takes courage. It takes some vulnerability. Speaking up and sharing stories may occur on LinkedIn and just through content sharing and thought leadership. It may occur, on that company's website or in some of the content that company puts out. So that's what I would say at the company level, not to discriminate against men or any other gender, but to really put these women front and center so they can show off, and the company is proud of that diversity and the opportunities that they're giving, across all genders.
Yeah, what do you think? And I'm sure you talk to a lot of women who go on these interviews. How do you prepare them, and what's the number one question that they bring up to you that they're afraid of? Or should I ask this or not say this? Everybody that goes in an interview, it's like these points that you have to hit within there. And I think that a lot of times that it's more about you being the interviewee rather than the interviewer. And I feel that this is a great opportunity to interview the interviewer, if that makes sense, to ask those critical questions, about, what's your culture? What is your company all about? How is it going to benefit me as a woman? What are your suggestions on that for new women that are coming into the industry, maybe straight out of college, or they're changing industries and jumping in? What would you suggest them?
I think those are the exact questions you want to ask. Just understanding what is the culture, what does support look like for women? If you're a mother, what does support look like for parents in the company? everyone wants flexibility in their role. There is no denying that. And, not every company is set up to offer flexibility in the same way. So may you find a remote role or a hybrid role that's going to give you the flexibility you need. But what women really can bring to the table, and I'm not saying men can't, but there are skills that women are just inherently good at. Women are generally better communicators, and I hope guys would both agree with me there. Maybe more organized, and so it's those skills that are driving hiring decisions right now, which is a great thing. And really understanding what are the skills that you find your strongest performers have, and what skills do you find that you don't have in your organization where you may have gaps. And then the interviewee has an opportunity to really sell themselves and show off experience when they gain that skill, or anecdotal stories about how they've used that skill to plug into the organization. But being very direct. What is your leadership style if you're talking to someone who would be your manager? And just understanding the culture. And culture is a very hard thing to talk about because it's a vibe, it's a feeling. It's not necessarily something you can put on paper. So digging deeper than that, how do you engage your employees? How do you encourage employees to connect both in and out of the workday? Really getting into those questions around what is important to you within a culture.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, how about the feedback that you get from sending these women in for these interviews? What kind of feedback are you getting? Because it's like after the interview, you want to talk to your candidate, you want to find out what happens. I mean, that's what really happens, right? So what are the main concerns that they bring to your attention that you use to help other candidates who come to you to get placed?
We don't hear a lot of like discrimination complaints or concerns, which is good. If anything, I think that companies want to attract women, and when they get a female candidate in front of them, it's a pleasure for them to have that opportunity to consider someone who may add to their diverse hiring pool. But I think again, it just comes down to women being able to really play up these skill sets that they bring. And one of the best skills that belongs in a company and in the workplace is empathy. And over the years, as a woman myself, I always thought that empathy was frowned upon. And if I put it out there that I'm an empathetic person, whether I made that statement or I had an action that showed that I cared about others and that I take the time to put myself in their shoes and have that compassion, that it was a weakness. And we are in such a male dominated industry. So I always thought the more emotion I showed, the more I'd be run over, or it would look like I wasn't strong enough to handle these conversations. And I've changed my style a lot in the last 3 years. I am putting myself out there the way I am. I'm not a super emotional or sensitive person, but I am very empathetic. I'm very compassionate. And I don't want to work for a company that wouldn't appreciate that. So really being able to play that up and say, I'm not saying that the men in this company don't bring the empathy, but sometimes empathy can really take the relationship in a better direction. What I have found is that the more emotion I show and the more compassion I show in a conversation, even if it's me and five men talking, you kind of get them to loosen up. You kind of get them to realize that there is more to hiring than just filling the spot with a warm body, and really thinking about, how are others going to feel? How is, this decision going to affect not only our employees and our culture, but our processes and our service offering or our product? So that would be my advice to employers, but also interviewees, is don't be afraid to play up whatever soft skills you bring that make you the human you are, even if you feel that they may be frowned upon. It's up to you to turn them into an advantage.
Yeah, I absolutely believe in that. I think empathy is a critical part of the industry that is really lacking on both sides, because they're afraid to speak up.
Yes.
To say to speak their mind, sort of speaking, right? And that's what hurts them most, when they don't realize it, because they have that thing inside of them that says, I don't know if I should say this, I'm probably going to kick myself in the butt for doing this, but it's actually very helpful and beneficial for those who do that. When I use a poster child, I hate to use that word, but I've known this person for a very long time. I met her 28 years ago, and that's Shelley Simpson. I use
Mhm.
her as a poster child. She was a CSR at JB Hunt, moved through the ranks all the way up to the top, and now she's the president of the company. And I say that when I speak to women, that there's so many opportunities for you. And thank goodness that the ownership of JB Hunt noticed that and
Mhm.
appreciated everything that she did. And I feel that if they did that, other companies followed that type of model, and help to promote within and help them to get and give them that guidance that's needed. I think that, companies would be better off. What are your feelings about all of that?
I mean, I think Shelley Simpson is a pioneer for what she's doing. She is speaking up. She is sharing her story. She is humble and not afraid to talk about where she started and all the roles she's had. And she's been in trucks with drivers. She's been on a distribution floor. She knows what it takes and she knows the people and connects with them. And I think one of the more powerful things that she does is she posts a lot of pictures. So she is showing sometimes she is the only woman in a room. Sometimes she's wearing, a beautiful suit, but then she has on a hard hat because she's standing at the terminal watching trucks get loaded. And I think those are the things that people need to see is behind the scenes that women can do this and they can do it their own way. So I love everything she's doing. And I agree, like huge kudos to her, but huge kudos to JB Hunt also for recognizing that there's a story there. And
Yeah.
it's not just to put their CEO out there, the story goes so much further to not only attract more talent, and then also to retain the women in their organization now and the future women that they're attracting through messages like this.
Yes, and you've heard her speak before, so have I. And we talk about the empathy, and you can hear that in the
Mhm.
way that she presents herself, her business, her model, and everything. She does have that soft side, if you will. I mean, she is a hard-nosed person, attention to detail, and wants to do what's right for the company as well as women in the industry. But she has that soft side that you can definitely hear and feel it from her. And that's why it's so important. That's why I used her as an example and how she goes about it. And that's why I say it's so beneficial for the other women that are in that position that might have that opportunity to move up. But these are the type of things that they need to do in order to get there. Ryan, what are your feelings about that? What kind of questions do you have?
Yeah, of course, I got tons. So first and foremost, love all the answers here. It's very very beneficial. Like I think we had a question from the audience, and you unknowledgeably answered it, so it was perfect, Charlie. What I want to get to is that when I was kind of doing my research on your background and learning that hey, you took like the advertising marketing route in school, and then you left, and I believe like you were pregnant with your first child, I believe, and then you're like, okay, let's try logistics, let's see what's going on there, and then you hired your husband as your first employee, right? So, in that mindset for there. How did you balance like your work life in terms of let's say you're on Zoom 98% of the day, and then you got a child who's sick, and then you got to kind of juggle those mom responsibilities. What your advice would be for somebody like that?
It's hard. My advice is it's hard, but if it is something you're passionate about, it is worth it. Being a working mother, I know that I am sending such a strong message to my kids, and it's taken them a long time to really understand that I work and we do live in a community where a lot of the moms don't work. And there's always been, I don't know, some frustration if I'm not available. Of course I'm gonna do everything I can to be at the school play. But if I'm not available to pick up after school and all the other moms are in line to pick up their kids, I think my kids now have, and thanks to the pandemic and thanks to the fact that I work from home and they're hearing me and they're seeing my hustle, they appreciate it. And they know that, yeah, mom might not be around as much as the other moms are, but look what our mom is doing. And that goes very far. So, I share a funny story about when I first started, and I'm not suggesting that other people do this, but it is part of how I kind of got ahead as a mother of three. So I really started this business just before I had my third son, and it started to take off when he was just an infant. And that was around the time I had put myself on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was really starting to get some traction. And so what I would do is I would work when I could during the day, you know, when the baby was napping, when my other kids were at preschool or playing outside with their dad, I would get my work in. But when I really did my work was the middle of the night when I woke up to feed my baby. And I guess I'm lucky that my third son was a terrible sleeper. So there were probably like 6 or 7 months where I would get up with him once or twice a night to give him a bottle. And I sat there on LinkedIn and I would just connect and network and send messages. And it got to the point where in that period of time, I started getting messages from LinkedIn security, and they would say, you know, there's some fraudulent activity on your account. You must be a bot because there's no way that you are sending, you know, connection messages at 11 a.m. and then at 3 a.m. And I was like, no, it's me. I'm just, you know, working a funky schedule these days. And so that's what moms have to do is you look at every moment. And I'm not saying you always have to be on and always have to be going, but I have no shame taking a call in the middle of Target. I have no shame telling someone if they call me and I've got 6 kids in my car for a carpool, like I can chat, but you might hear something in the background. So heads up. And again, I think the pandemic started to normalize some of that stuff for us. Like we work where we can, when we can, and everyone's doing what works for them. So that's what I encourage is just, you know, looking at your time holistically and figuring out when do I need to be on, when can I do work offline, and what's the best schedule to balance my priorities. Obviously family first, but work is a close second.
That's amazing. I love that. That is such a great, and you set up that foundation because you're doing amazing things on CS Recruiting that I keep seeing and following, like your retreats and treating your employees. Like the vibe that I kind of get from your company is that everyone's really like family. And like you said earlier in the conversation, that culture is something you can't write down on paper. It's a feeling, right? So to see everybody kind of post about it and see like I think you guys took like a sabbatical, like for like whatever it was, to kind of build up your employees. What conversations do you have with the females in your company for them looking at leadership roles, whether it be within CS Recruiting or maybe it's somewhere else?
I mean, our team is about 90% female right now, and that is just the way it ended up. So it was not deliberate. Of course, I wanted to have a good balance, but recruiting just happens to be an industry that more females go into and stay into. But really proud of our leadership team. It's myself and 3 other women. And again, that was just through their tenure, their hands-on experience, what they were able to contribute at that leadership level. What we're seeing now, it's a touchy subject, but we are starting to hear from clients that they really want to hire women, and that is great news. But where it gets tricky is the more we subconsciously or consciously target women, we are then discriminating against other qualified candidates that are men who also may be the best person for the job. So I think the good news is that companies are aware of it. I also think a lot of the clients we work with genuinely want women in their organization, not to fill a quota, but they want what a woman can bring. They want that point of view. Maybe they want that empathy. But you've got to be very careful because as much as you're trying to increase the minority, you don't want to, offend a majority player or potentially discriminate against them. So when we do talk to women in the industry looking for leadership, we can honestly tell them that you are being sought after, that we have a lot of companies that would prefer a woman in this position. But of course, we're going to treat this search fairly. We are looking for the best person. But I honestly would think women have a little bit of an advantage today.
Yeah, that is true. Collaboration, communication is so key. I'd love to find out when you went on your sabbatical, you went to Cabo, right?
We did a company retreat we went to Cabo last year. We went to Cancun this past 2 weeks ago.
What do when you have this retreat, what do you discuss that's so beneficial to your company, to your employees, that makes them rise to another level? I mean, and the reason why I'm asking this, Charlie, is that maybe I'm going to say not maybe, but there's a lot of corporations that don't take that into consideration, to boost up their employees, to make them have that feel good, feeling. But you do. So tell us about that retreat and what you discuss to help them grow.
It is a very simple answer, And the answer is we just let them be themselves and we don't have an agenda. So last year when we took our first retreat, it was no work. I mean, we are not renting a conference room and doing PowerPoint presentations. It was, we are coming together really to bond, to connect, to get to know each other. But our first year, we had a lot of organized activities, think like Olympic beach games and scavenger hunts. And we started the weekend strong with some of those fun team games. And what we realized maybe the first half day is that people just wanted to hang out. And that is how we position our retreat. It's a reward for the work that's been done. It's an opportunity to reset, recharge, reconnect. And it's also a way to kind of pump people up for what's ahead. And so when we organized all these activities, not that anyone was resistant to it, but we actually found that the minute we decided, like, let's just go with the flow and have an organic weekend, that's when the connections started to happen. And this year, when we went to Cabo a few weeks ago, it was exactly that. I mean, there are no laptops allowed. If you want to bring your laptop to watch a movie on the plane, or if you choose to catch up on your email on the plane, that's fine. But I never saw a laptop in Mexico, which is the goal. And we truly just want people to show up as themselves and be authentic and be their human person and come to the retreat as who they are. And what's amazing is, yes, we are fostering connectivity, and it's important for our leadership team to be able to connect with each person. I know so much more about everyone on my team just because we had an opportunity to spend a relaxful, non-stressful weekend together. But what's even cooler is I will go on Instagram and scroll, and naturally, I'm following a lot of my employees, and I will see that 3-4 of our employees had brunch on Sunday, or a group of employees got together for someone's birthday on Tuesday night and posted. And that to me is the ROI that I can't measure, but I can say, okay, it's effective. What we are doing to connect our people, the fact that they are choosing to spend time together outside of work, that they're choosing to be friends, it makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, we are hiring people who align with our values. We are hiring diverse people, but if we have a common denominator, we all care about the same purpose. And that's what brings these people together, from a personal standpoint. So when you connect personally, then you want to win together. You want to support each other professionally. You understand each other. You know what's behind the scenes. So I'm a big advocate of the retreats. And I feel like it took us a year to really figure it out. But no structure has been the best way for people to just come as themselves.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I feel strongly that a lot of other corporations out there should do it. I mean, I see it on LinkedIn, not seldomly. I mean, not that often, and I do believe that they should be doing that. Like a long time ago, they used to do outbound or something like that, where they would bring and make sure that they forced their employees to work with each other, climbing ropes or something, that they couldn't do it with each other, to help build that camaraderie, that friendship and all of that. So that's awesome. I'm with you on that, and I just feel that a lot of other corporations should do the same thing. So
Yeah.
with that said, I thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with us today. I thought the conversation was great. Appreciate the audience and their comments as well. I think that I know that you're a point of contact for women out there who want to learn. You said a lot of important things out there. I hope that they absorbed all that, and that when they do go looking for a position, that they reach out, to all of our recruiters this week, and even yourself today, because you're all on the same page. You all want to help women. And I just appreciate you being the last guest of this week in the recruiting side of this month-long discussion on empowerment of women in the logistics industry. So thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for making this an initiative and something that is of importance, because it's a community effort. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Quinn, thank you again. If someone wants to get in contact with you, with somebody, yourself, Charlie, or somebody on your team looking for guidance or anything like that, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
you will find us on LinkedIn. I don't think you can miss us. Between the posts I put out there and what my team shares, you can check out our company page, CS Recruiting, or come to my personal profile, connect, and I'd love to engage. Again, whether you're hiring or looking for an opportunity, if you love this industry, that's what we do.
That's awesome. And any upcoming expos or any kind of trade shows you got planned for the year that someone can meet you in person?
I'm going to be at the TPM, a maritime conference, Sunday through Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And then I will be at the TIA in April and some other conferences when we get into the fall. So if you see me there, please come say hello.
Awesome. So want to thank everybody, especially Charlie, for coming out this morning. If you found value in this, please like, comment, just to show us a little support. We are Sales Chatter. We go live every day at 11 a.m. Next week, we got some amazing guests as we go into the carrier aspect of it. So we've got Centurion Trucking on Monday. We got Trucking Pros on Tuesday. And on Thursday, we've got Cargo Margo from NFI Industries. So we got jam-packed, like I said. Subscribe to our channel. Catch us on the replay at 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And have an amazing weekend. Jeff, take us out, brother.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Thanks again, Charlie, for joining us as well. Don't forget about our sponsor, Centurion Trucking. Reach out to Daman. He's hiring new agents at 60% margin, so something that you should look into. And with that said, Audacious Cowboy out. Have a great weekend, folks. Thank you.